Ladies and gentlemen, our referee has called a stop to this contest, declaring the winner by knockout and new MMA show!
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting round of and new MMA show. I am your host, Michael Hansen, and I do all kinds of yabba dabba do things with microphones. Yes, that was a Flintstones reference. I don't know. I just go with whatever comes to my head.
Strong.
What is it?
Strong.
Episode 121, and you have officially run out of adjectives.
Because I'm a ring announcer and I'm a cage announcer, and I'm joined this week, as I always am, by my two co-hosts,
And
both of whom bring MMA punditry to new heights. Shut up. Introducing first, in New York, he is Mark Priaulx. What's up, buddy?
What's up, boys? How we doing? Day before Thanksgiving. I'm happy to be off from work for a little bit, and I have to wake up so early tomorrow after going to bed at God knows what time after we finish this show. So yeah, in a good mood for tonight.
All right. And now introducing in Florida, the Sunshine State, with some heavy, heavy eyelids, Omar Artola. What's up, my friend?
You know,
Been
there
training
are some
hard, I see.
days. There are some days where when I train, there's not a ton of variety when it comes to skill level, depending on the classes I go to. Sometimes a lot, especially with a lot of new people. It's like I don't go hard, right? I'm not like beating the shit out of new people, right? And I take my time, and I'm usually good. Today, both the morning class and the evening class were both pretty decent guys. So like, my shins hurt. They're super sensitive. My poor wife can't even like touch them when we're sleeping because super
They're
sensitive
sore.
right now. Yeah,
They're tender.
super sensitive. Tender. That's the perfect
the
word
word.
for them.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
tender.
You gotta upgrade to that king bed.
I have a king bed, dog.
Can't-
I have.
Oh,
a
you
king
do?
bed.
So you got enough
Come on,
room
dog.
then?
We
Is it a king
We're
or a
cut-
California king?
we're cuddlers, dog. We're cuddlers, is what it is.
I would never want a king. I'm not a king bed kind of guy.
Dude, I have a California king. The
Do you
most
really?
optimal place
Wow.
that you can have.
Nah,
yes.
I think I have a normal.
And it has
King.
changed my life.
But don't you? I feel like I'd miss my wife.
Yeah,
But what do you mean?
same.
It doesn't prevent you from you can cuddle in the beginning of the night, and then you
But
can
then what's
move
the
over
point
and
of
be
having a
separate.
bed? What's the point of having a bed that big?
So you
No,
can
see, Mark
out.
Mark does the hug and roll. Is what Mark
Yeah,
does.
like you could fall asleep, and then like eventually you're like, all right, I'm fucking like mushed over here. Let me roll over, and I'll stretch my arms and stretch my legs, and you got all this room. No one's
Nah,
bumping
bro.
into you.
Sounds nice. Yeah. Yeah.
See,
Yeah. I mean, I'm
my
tall,
wife is
so, like,
my
Omar's not quite the
personal-
same length
Yeah,
as
you're taller
myself.
than me.
That's true. That's true.
But
I think proportionally, I think I'm probably just as tall as you are to your wife, perhaps, because my wife is tiny.
Why is she very short? How short is she?
She's like 5 foot, dog. She
Oh,
like
like
she
5'5".
scrambles. She might be like 4'11 3/4. I think she scrambles
Wow,
for
wow.
Is
that
she that
last
short?
that last quarter. She's tiny, dog. She's a little
That
thing.
last quarter.
Yeah. But she's my personal furnace, man. I need to cuddle. You know.
Oh, see, I'm the opposite. I don't need any extra heat.
Okay.
I'm overly hot.
Oh no. I like
need-
the heat.
If me and my wife could cuddle all night long and just be attached all night, I would be so happy. But she like punches me in the face. She's like, get away from me right now.
So I have definitely struck Francesca in the face in the middle of the night. Dog, there have been times where like I'll be like fighting in my dreams for whatever reason. Like
shit.
legit.
Karen's done
Legit.
that to me, actually. She's done that to me.
And like
I might have done it to her, too.
next thing I know, she's waking me up like, you just punched me in the back of the fucking head. And I'm like,
Oh
what?
my God.
I was like, no, somebody was trying to rob me in my dreams. I'm so sorry. Like, I have struck her multiple occasions and I feel bad because I go and I feel it. I feel myself going like full bore with it too, like while I'm laying down.
That's great.
Sorry, babe.
All right, let's
all
get
good.
back
Let's
on
get
track.
to it.
My update is that I'm still coming down from the high that was this past weekend's
Oh,
event,
yeah.
APFC 9 Milwaukee, also known as APFC Milwaukee Fight Night 3.
Okay.
It was great, man. It was this is 9. I joined them with their 3rd event. So this is my, how many? 6th event? I missed one because my
Did
kid
you
was
just
in the
struggle
hospital.
with 9-3? Is that what I just witnessed right there?
I'm not a math guy, man. I'm not a math guy.
Worried about my eyelids.
What?
I said everybody's worried about my eyelids, but worried about you 9 minus 3. It's
Anyhow,
gonna be a rough night.
it was their biggest event probably to date. It was a star-studded event. It almost felt like a UFC event in that there was just so many past and present UFC fighters in attendance at cage side. Let's see who we had. We had Anthony himself, Pettis himself. We had his brother was there, Sergio. Frank Mir was doing color commentary. Bilal Muhammad, it was his 3rd time doing color commentary there.
When was this? What night?
This was this past Sunday.
Damn, so Sergio was there like 2 days after he lost the belt out and about?
Hopped on a plane,
Good
went
for
straight to
him.
Milwaukee. And they're from Milwaukee, remember, so it probably is pretty familiar territory to them.
Right.
But who else was there? We had Nate Diaz was like the distinguished guest. CM Punk was also another distinguished guest, even though he was a bit late. He didn't make it to the intro in the cage. Yair Rodriguez was there. I gave him a big hug. I made sure to do that because I freaking love him. Also, a surprise for me, Jake Ellenberger was there, sitting front row.
Damn.
So cool.
Did you recognize him?
Of course. I went right over to him.
you, like without knowing it was Jake Ellenberger, you saw him and you were like, "Oh, that's Jake Ellenberger."
Yeah, exactly. From standing in the cage, like waiting for my next intro, I turned my head to the right and I was like, "That's Jake Ellenberger. Oh my god!" And then right after that announcement, when I hopped out of the cage, I went straight over to him. I was like, "Bro, that was so cool."
Nice.
Who was Rampage was there. Jake Shields was there with Nate Diaz, of course. It was nuts, man. Oh, Chris Angel was there. Chris Angel and Anthony are like good buddies, apparently. So that's cool. They probably live near each other.
Chris Angel's been an
Oh, yeah.
MMA fan for forever, dude. He's
Yeah,
been
yeah.
such a big fan.
But I know that Anthony, I think he lives in Vegas. So
Yeah.
maybe he and Chris Angel got hooked up that way at some point, and now they seem to be boys.
How
So
good
it was
did
great,
Rampage
man.
look? Because he looks like he's lost a lot of weight.
Let me tell you something. I always thought guys like Rampage, Frank Mir were not the biggest dudes, not the biggest heavyweights. These men are big, giant men. They're big guys, man.
He seems
Frank
massive,
Mir,
though.
I got to meet Frank. I didn't get to meet Rampage, but I stopped by Frank. I shook his hand, had a few nice words. Nicest guy. Such a great guy. Also, I remember Frank Mir doing color back, I think for WEC. Correct me if I'm wrong, if you guys remember.
I think you're right. WC it was. I'm pretty sure.
And you know, one of my great joys of doing rig announcing is especially when I get my own earpiece and I get to just hear the play-by-play table and the commentators. So I get to sit cage side, and it's as though I'm watching it on TV, but I'm also there. And I was reminded at how much of a mad scientist and like a PhD level Frank Mir is, especially with grappling. He knows so much. So good. Great stuff.
I
man.
mean,
Dude,
what he did to Nogueiro's arm will go down in history as one of the nastiest things ever done to anybody.
Yeah.
It's cold-blooded. Cold-blooded.
Yeah, man. It's a great night. Great night overall. A couple of big prospects with some big wins. Main event, Cody the Codebreaker Lynn scored a submission victory, and I think in the 2nd or 3rd round, winning the APFC interim featherweight title. So be on the watch for him. Cody Lynn, bantamweight, no, flyweight? I could be wrong, but he very easily could get called up to the UFC very, very soon. Also a guy who just was on Tough on the Connor versus who's Connor with? Coached against. I'm just brain farting.
Chandler.
Chandler. Thank you.
God, my brain
He
wasn't
also-
working for a second either.
Yeah. Nate Jennerman. Nate Jennerman got the victory. He was just on Tough, and he got a win here. He was saying in his interviews, like so many other guys from that season have already been called up, and he was like, I want my shot to go into the UFC now. And he actually got rocked in the 1st round real bad, but he recovered and he slowly came back in the second, the third round. He kept it on the pressure. Real veteran stuff, man. So happy that he got the win. Anyhow, yeah, man. Look out for 2024.
I'm pissed that you got robbed of your chance to intro Nate to the cage.
Yeah.
That sucked.
I'll tell that story real quick. So in past events where APFC has had some huge special guests, we have had John Jones, we've had Cain Velasquez. Usually these guests are just like at cage side, and they're like, all right, Mike, go do your intro of them and bring them into the cage. It usually would start with me introing Anthony and then introing the special guests. So I go up to Pettis and I was like, hey, just, we'll recap it real quick. I'm going to intro you and then just, stand by and I'll bring in Nate. And he looked at me, he was like, yeah, I got it. And then the guy who's the director of operations was like, hey, we're going to do it now. And I looked around and I was like, where's Nate? I hadn't seen Nate at all the whole night, even though I knew that he was apparently there. And the guy goes, Nate's in the back. He's going to come out when you start. I was like, oh, okay. So I didn't know that it was a little bit different. So when I announced Anthony, thinking Anthony was going to hop up into the cage with me, Anthony Pettis, Nate Diaz, accompanied by Jake Shields, also accompanied by Rampage Jackson, and like 2 other UFC fighters, and Chris Angel, all together. Cue the music, cue the light show, cue like the smoke machine. They all come out from the back where the fighters walk out, and they all walk down the fighter catwalk together, like high-fiving fans. And then they all just came into the cage together, and I gave the mic to Pettis. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, I guess I'm not going to intro Nate, but this is so cool that I'm standing in here with like almost a dozen UFC legends. So that's pretty freaking cool.
That part's awesome for sure.
Yeah, man.
For sure. Nice.
Next time.
Yeah.
All right, boys. Well, that's my brush with fame. Look out for me, 2024 APFC. As far as I know, I think they're going to keep me around. So we'll see. I'll keep you abreast. But it's a great organization. Let's talk some MMA, shall we? In this episode, we're going to recap the fights from this past weekend, Bellator and UFC Fight Night action. We're going to find out who rose and fell in Mark's personal UFC rankings that he himself maintains. We're going to find out what's going on in the world of MMA outside of the cage with our segment Inside the MMA Sphere, where Omar takes us through the headlines. And then we're going to look ahead to PFL action this week and PFL 10 going down in Washington, D.C. at the Anthem Night of Champions. This is the finale of PFL's 2023 season. All right. Well, before we get into any of this fight talk, let's first address our audience. If you guys are watching this on YouTube right now, thank you so much. Please consider subscribing to our channel. If you've been watching, if you've been liking what you've been watching, even if you've been liking it just a little bit, if you like it more than you hate it, go ahead and subscribe. It helps us out so much. Give us a thumbs up. It costs you nothing, but it helps us out so much with all the algorithm things. If you like any of our takes, let us know down in the comments. And hey, if you disagree with any of our takes, let us know down in the comments. We love that thoughtful MMA debate and discussion. That is why we're here. That is why we started this show. If you want audio only, we got you there. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you can find us on social media on all the relevant platforms at @&new_MMA show. Okay, here we go. We're going to start off with Bellator. This week, the name on the marquee has got to be Jason Jackson, who this past weekend at Bellator 301 at the Wintrust Arena in Chicago, Illinois, about an hour away where I was from, he defeated the great Yaroslav Amosov. Am I saying his name right? Amosov. By knockout in the third round. The official time 2:08 of round number 3, defeating the undefeated Amosov. Mark, start us off. Give us your take of the surprising performance by Jason Jackson.
What a sport. Amosov was minus 500 in some places coming into this fight. And I think what we really learned here is that we and by we I mean the MMA community like as a whole, evaluated both of these guys' levels incorrectly. For Jason Jackson, I know I myself looked at him as a solid, big, strong guy, good wrestler, serviceable hands, but I had him pegged as a guy who was maybe in the top 20, 25 welterweights if, say, he had come to the UFC. Like, probably never ranked unless he got the right type of matchups. Maybe like he's fighting Santiago Ponzinibbio, like something like that. That's kind of where I had Jason Jackson in my brain. And I think his Bellator resume of mostly older guys in Douglas Lima and Paul Daly and Jordan Mean, and then smaller guys like Bendo and guys who are kind of a one-trick pony like Neiman Gracie, like that resume, it didn't really have anyone so thrilling on it. And I think it kind of tricked us all into missing how good Jason Jackson was. And then on the flip side with Amosov, I think as much as I tried to resist viewing him as like a top 5 welterweight in the world because of the same thing about who he was fighting in Bellator, he had been so damn impressive and so damn dominant. And he was 27-0. And it just hit a point where it felt like you couldn't deny it anymore. And the rest of the world, I feel like, was on board with this as well, where we had thought, if he came to the UFC, he'd probably be in the mix contending for a title. And I think now we realize that was probably a little too aggressive too, because I don't think he's that. So I think going into this fight, one guy was underrated and one guy was overrated, and we found that out. Did Amosov have a bad night? Maybe he did. Who knows? He certainly didn't look great. I don't know how much of that was him, how much of that was Jackson. But no matter how you slice it, I don't think I've been that shocked in MMA in a while. There probably is something not that long ago I'm forgetting. I feel like there's a lot of shockers in MMA, but not that I'm thinking off top. Not that I didn't think Jason Jackson could compete, but to see him do it the way he did was unreal. I mean, he won every round. He walked him down. He stuffed every takedown, and he put him out. That was complete dominance from Jason Jackson and a massive, massive statement on his talent level. And on the finish, just to say, the amount of people who can't seem to see this right uppercut that clips Amosov behind the left ear on his way down is wild. Like, there's so many people like, wow, he got KO'd by a stuffed takedown. I've never seen that before. Like, his head must have got pushed into the mat. Like, it's a perfectly placed uppercut. I don't know how people are not seeing that. Even Big John didn't see it on the broadcast. So I don't get that one. But anyway, yeah, unbelievable finish. Jason Jackson fought the most perfect fight I think he could fight. We'll see how Amosov rebounds from here, but holy hell, what a night, and on a huge card for Jason Jackson to do what he did.
Omar, what were your thoughts? Were you surprised at all by the performance of Jason Jackson?
I think I was surprised at the dominance of it all. I think I expected a more competitive fight. I think there were moments for Amosov where, we saw him kind of have grappling control, but then wasn't really able to do much with it, even when he did get it. And Jason Jackson looked great on the feet, man. He looked fantastic. His hands looked really good. His distance was fantastic. He had real pop in his strikes. Amosov looked like there was nothing behind a lot of the strikes that he was throwing. He was doing a lot of circling around the cage, a lot of backpedaling. And the reality is doing that stuff is just going to make you wear yourself out a lot faster than when you walk forward. And I think that was really the biggest difference at the end of the day, was the pressure. Jason Jackson was walking forward. And I think the one thing that people don't really notice, if you haven't been in a situation like that, if you're not used to footwork and things like that, cutting off angles is a big deal and creates a lot of goddamn problems if you're on the bad end of things, like Amosov was, right? He's circling the cage, trying to kind of find his way out using lateral movement, but instead of following him in a straight line, in front of Amosov, he was able to kind of cut a corner and still follow him, but at a different angle that didn't really give the same opportunity for escape for Amosov. And I don't know if we've ever really seen Amosov get walked down like that. And it might have something to do with the pressure. It might be that he's not used to or doesn't like to deal with pressure like that. A lot of guys are very comfortable keeping distance, keeping range, using their using their takedowns when they're getting pressured. But when you can't do that against somebody who has damn good takedown defense, then maybe that's what we saw here with Amosov. So beautiful performance from Jason Jackson, fantastic takedown defense, fantastic striking, and a real killer instinct to really get him out of there in the end.
Yeah, man. So that being said, what could be next for Jason Jackson, the new champ? Mark?
I would think you go rematch here. Amosov has been dominant enough that I feel he deserves to run it right back, and there's honestly no clear contender who's kind of separated himself from the pack and is necessarily waiting in the wings. So, things are going to get weird with this, PFL purchase of Bellator, which we'll talk about later in this episode. I'm not sure exactly how things do shake out, but if we're looking at just the Bellator roster, I think that running it back is the thing that makes the most sense for both guys.
Omar, what are your thoughts?
Well, as you know, I don't. I concur. I concur. I don't pick Bellator fights. These rankings don't make sense.
Is everything all right behind you over there?
I don't know, dude.
What's happening?
I don't know. They're fucking around with the box. I don't know.
Oh, the cats.
Yes.
Oh, and it's that?
Did you think it was a ghost?
I didn't know what was happening. You seemed very concerned. Oh, maybe the house was on fire.
Is that a Street Fighter character on that box?
It is, yes.
Or is that the clown from It?
No, one of my coaches gave me a figurine of Blanca.
There you go.
I just don't have a place to put it yet, so I haven't taken it out of its pristineness.
Sure.
Nice. Well, they want it out.
Okay, let's keep going here. Co-main event, Bellator 301 in Chicago, Illinois. Patchy Mix defeats Sergio Pettis in their unification bout. And Patchy Mix is now the undisputed Bellator bantamweight champion, winning this fight by submission via rear naked choke. The official time, 1 minute 51 seconds of the second round. Omar, give us your take of this performance by Mr. Patchy Mix.
It's always fights like this where I pick them almost damn near perfect, and I can't even be happy about it because it happened to Sergio Pettis. So it makes me very, very sad. It was a good fight, but I think the real problem is I think you saw from the beginning that Sergio Pettis was already afraid of going down to the ground with Patchy Mix. And I think a lot of the game was involving trying to make sure that he didn't. And I've really gotten into this notion that when you are so concerned about not being somewhere and your opponent knows it, that's all they're going to look to do. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think it screws up that person's game as well, because you don't spend time implementing your game. You spend time trying to stop somebody else from implementing theirs. And I think Sergio had a real problem with that throughout, I think, the entirety of that fight. And I think that, I knew that was going to be the case. Patchy Mix, I can only imagine what it must be like to stand in front of Patchy Mix. Like, you see that, like, ridiculous human being. He is a specimen. And for you to have to go up against him, I can only imagine how terrifying that is. He's like the Jonathan Almeida of, like, the small people. You know what I mean? And I think you really saw it in Sergio's performance. And I think a lot of fighters have a lot of doubts and things like that, especially when they build certain things up in their head. But it was a little sad in that sense, because Sergio does have really good ground game, and you saw a lot of that in the first round. Although he got controlled, he was still able to, kind of work himself in there. But in the second round, man, he got caught. His arm got laced through that leg, and once his arm was trapped, I mean, you could see it coming from a mile away that you're not gonna defend Patchy Mix's submission attempts with one arm. You're just not. It's not gonna happen. People can barely do it with two. I guarantee you, no one's gonna do it with one. So I mean, it was a beautiful performance from Patchy Mix, man. He did exactly what he needed to do. I thought he did well on the feet as well, for being wholly honest. But his ground game is next level, and it is almost, at this point, it is almost just as reliable as, like, a solid right hand. It's a problem.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Mark, let's bring you in here. What were your thoughts on this performance by Patchy Mix?
The ascent of Patchy Mix, man. What a damn march to the title this has been. From Kyoji to Magomedov to Stots and now to Sergio Pettis. I mean, this man is inevitable right now. That's truly how it feels. Like it's just a matter of time. And it was in this one. A minute into the fight, Mix was already carrying Sergio across the cage. And it was all downhill from there. He's too big. He's too skilled. He's too smothering. He's too smart with his setups. And yes, Sergio survived on bottom in round one. But round two, Mix was right back at it. And I loved the way he got it to the mat by pushing off the cage with his foot to use the momentum to roll through and position himself firmly on Sergio's back. Then it was hooks in. Then he trapped the right arm. And then he choked him out. I mean, he's Aljo, man. It's the same thing. He's the human backpack. And what a fight those two would make. But he is the Bellator version of Aljo. And same weight class. But he's unstoppable right now.
Tough one for me, man. I'm Team Pettis.
Yeah.
And having had the pleasure to meet Sergio a few times at some APFC events, also the nicest guy. Humble, kind, such a good guy. So only want to see the best for him. So this was a tough one. That being said, Patchy Mix, undeniable how talented that man is and how skilled he is at what he does. And yeah, I wish it was a Bellator UFC merger because I would love to see Patchy Mix go up against Aljo. That would be a fantastic bantamweight grappler's delight.
I mean, yeah.
That being said, Mark, what do you think could be next for Patchy Mix?
I don't know where he goes, man, because he just beat Magomedov, then he beat Stots, and now he beat Sergio consecutively. And they're the top three contenders. You know, Sabatello just lost. If he won, maybe he could have been in the mix, but we're going to get to him in a second. The only other name that makes any sense to me who's in that mix is Juan Archuleta. He is the one man who has beaten Patchy Mix. He is the Ryzen champ currently. He's been fighting over there. He's won 3 times in Japan already. The first one was on one of those co-shows with Bellator, but he's fought 2 more times. He does have an enormous fight coming up in December against Kai Asakura, which is what the original fight for the title was supposed to be, but Kai got hurt, so now it's been scheduled again for December as Juan's first defense. But and I know he still has his deal with Bellator, so if he does win that fight, and you can get him to come back and fight Patchy, I know Patchy always says he'd love to avenge that loss. Obviously, it's his only one. I think that's actually a pretty big deal, especially if he's carrying that Ryzen belt when he does it. But aside from him, as I said, unless you're quickly going back to someone Patchy just beat, I'm not really sure who makes any sense.
Yeah. All right, man. Let's move on here. Also in the bantamweight division.
Wait, can I do Sergio real quick?
Oh, yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah, please.
I don't know enough. I don't know if you know, Mike. Do you know if he would fight Raufeon Stots? Do you know the detail of their relationship?
Stots is a Rufus Sports guy.
I know. Or is he still, or was he?
Stots?
Yeah, is he currently Rufus Sport? He is?
I think so, yeah.
They probably would never, right? I remember they said they would do it if it was the finals of the Grand Prix. But otherwise, I wonder if they ever would. Because really, like, that's the fight. If we have to match Sergio up in Bellator, like he's fought most of these other dudes, that's where you should go. But I guess if you can't do that, then Magomedov could probably work as a good one.
All right. Here we go. Speaking of, also in the bantamweight division, Raufeon Stots defeated Danny Sabatello for the second time, this time by a unanimous decision. All 3 judges scored the fight 29-28 in favor of Stots. Mark, keep going here. Tell us why Stots won this fight, this time unanimously on the scorecards.
What an absolutely crazy, ridiculous fight this thing was. The scrambles and the grappling transitions that we saw from these two men were some of the best and most competitive we've ever seen in a fight. And Raufeon was able to just edge it out again, but it was close. And Danny almost did exactly what I said last week that I thought he could do. He was very close to doing it. I said with it being a 3-round fight, I thought he could just push really hard to keep Stots under control and bank 10 minutes. And then no matter what happens, the cards would have to go to him. And he came really close to doing just that because he took round 1, and you could tell he was pushing with maximum effort, whereas Stots looked, a bit calmer, more like he was managing himself. And then he almost did it in round 2, but he only made it 8 minutes, and he had to make it 10. He had Stots back, and he let him spin to top position with 2 minutes left in the round. And then he let Stots accomplish too much there, and Stots was able to steal the round. So 2 more minutes, he could have done it, and round 3 wouldn't have mattered, but he let Stots reverse that position, and then he needed round 3, and he couldn't get it because round 3 was clear for Raufeon. So again, another really close fight. They both cause a lot of problems for each other. Raufeon can't open up because he has to be so focused defensively to not end up in bad positions because it'll happen quick with Danny. And then Danny, like, you watch it and you want to say, hey, man, you need some ground and pound. But I don't think Stots is ground and poundable. Like, if you open up for 1 second, he's gone. Yeah. It's unreal how quick he can get out of position. So they're a tough fight for each other to deal with. Neither looks that – I mean, they both looked good. The transitions were amazing. But in terms of any dominance over the other, neither really gets to have any. But it is 2-0 Stots, and rightfully so.
Yeah, man. Omar, your thoughts?
I actually thought this fight was less competitive than the first one. And that is not to say that this fight was not competitive. But I remember the first one being super, super tight. I know a lot of it had to do with damage versus control, but Raufeon Stots took that fight and played that game very, very differently than the first fight. The scrambles were great. The reversals were great. And I think his ability to push the pace on Danny as well. And Danny played a little bit too much on the feet, I thought. I thought he would be a little bit more amped to take it down to the ground, throw a little bit more submission attempts. Maybe there was something gas tank related that maybe he didn't want to throw that many submission or that many takedown attempts out there in the event that Raufeon stuffed a few, because he does have obviously very good takedown defense. But it played to Raufeon's a strength as well, where it allowed him to stand up a lot more than he was able to in the first fight. It allowed him to go for takedowns of his own. And the sweeps and the ground setups were amazing. And he was active at all times, continuously throwing strikes, even after sweeps. As soon as Danny kind of scrambled out to try to get up, he was eating knees to the face. I mean, Stots was doing everything he could to try to get Danny Sabatello out there. Sabatello is a beast. But I mean, that fight clearly for me was for Raufeon Stots. And I don't remember feeling that way about the first fight.
Okay, so what could be next for Mr. Stots coming away with the win, Mark?
So I just mentioned the real perfect answer would be Sergio, because
right,
same deal with him. He already beat Danny twice now. He beat Archuleta. He beat Magomedov. Of course, he just lost to Patchy. So, like, the guy who he hasn't fought is Sergio, but if they're not going to do it, maybe you can do Kyoji. I don't know if Kyoji is fighting at flyweight. I know they had teased that, but obviously now who even knows what's happening in Bellator. So if he's not, maybe you could go that route. That is a fun fight. But yeah, I guess we will have to see.
Okay. A couple more here. Bellator 301, once again going down at the Wintrust Arena in Chicago, Illinois. This one in the lightweight division, and the great AJ McKee gets the win by unanimous decision over Sidney Outlaw. Omar, start us off with this one. What were your impressions of this decision win performance by McKee?
This, I think, was another damage versus control type of fight. I think with the major exception being that the damage here was exceptionally visible throughout the entire fight. I mean, AJ McKee opened up Sidney Outlaw throughout that fight, landing elbows, landing strikes in the ground. There was obviously a ton of control from Sidney Outlaw, but literally like no damage done from him on the ground, I think, to almost any extent. I think all the damage that had been done throughout those 3 rounds, for the most part, whether it was striking or whether on the feet or whether it was on the ground, was all AJ McKee. So I couldn't really be mad at the fact that while AJ McKee was on the ground on the bottom for a majority of that fight, he was the one that was landing all of the damage and all of the strikes. So AJ McKee wins by unanimous decision, and Sidney Outlaw needs to do something different with that game plan of his.
Mark, your thoughts?
Yeah, this one was a little hairy for a minute there. AJ McKee losing to Sidney Outlaw, especially in like a grinded out fashion, would have definitely taken a bit of buzz off of AJ McKee's name. And it wasn't looking great after round one. Outlaw took him right to the mat, which will be interesting to keep an eye on, with McKee at lightweight now if he fights other big 155ers who can wrestle. And even though Outlaw didn't do a whole lot in round one, AJ didn't do a ton either in that round. So you could certainly argue that AJ was down 10-9 going into round two. But from there, he really stepped it up. He was still getting taken down, but he made sure to make Sidney pay for it. He bloodied him up early in round two. And then really from that point on, he was just piecing Outlaw up from the bottom. Just nasty elbow shots. Sidney was mostly laying on top. He seemed like he was really afraid to move because he knew he'd lose AJ. And round three was mostly the same. So I was nervous that the judges would mess this up because it was a lot of top time for Outlaw. But thankfully they all got it right, which was good to see.
Yeah, man.
And they gave him 30-27s.
They all gave him the first two, which I didn't expect. I didn't even give him the first, but yeah, I'll take it.
Mark, do you have names for both of these guys moving forward, or just McKee?
I can give you both if you wish.
Sure.
I don't know if AJ has a chance to step in and meet Alexandr Shabily in the Grand Prix final. I know he did mention it. I touched on it last week that he should, and he did. Granted, he did say that it would be fair to give it to Brent Primus since he fought a guy who popped, which I'm guessing is what they will do. But if not, AJ McKee and Shabily would be a pretty awesome final. If he's not getting it, though, let's just book him and Patricky Pitbull. I know we're going to talk about Patricky in a second. I know he lost, but why beat around the bush? They both want it. There's nothing else for them at the moment. Let's book it. Let's get it done. Let's see that fight. Oh, and then for Outlaw, I'll use him as a test for someone coming up at this point. Maybe like a Godzi Rabadanov or a JJ Wilson, someone like that.
Okay, last one before we hop over to the UFC side of things. Alexandr Shabily, UD over Patricky Pitbull. Omar.
So I said it last week, right? Patricky Pitbull, the Pitbull brothers in general are not perfect, but I enjoy the way that they fight, right? This was fucked up. Like, Patricky got manhandled for 5 rounds. This was wild. I did not expect a complete, trouncing of a human being at all. Shabily completely exceeded all of the expectations I had. I thought it would be a little bit more competitive than it was. But damage was crazy off of Shabily's side onto Patricky Pitbull. Patricky was fucked up by the end of that fight. His face was all messed up, bleeding everywhere. And I think the part that was the most part of that the biggest part of that testament is Shabily didn't have anything on him. He was completely fine. It was sad. It was sad to watch Pitbull go down like that. Usually when Pitbull loses or when either one of the Pitbull brothers lose, there's a fight that's involved there. But damn, Shabily really just he took advantage, man. He had his openings. He knew what he was doing, and he completely abused him for 5 rounds.
Mark, your thoughts?
This was the Alexandr Shabily showcase. The speed, the accuracy, the head movement, the footwork, it all had Pitbull thinking so much that he couldn't do anything to change that fight. He was more or less frozen by Shabily. And yeah, he had a burst or two, but the technique of Shabily was just on a wholly other level. He was mixing it up all fight long. He had Pitbull's face looking like he got beat with a bat by the end of it. And he really announced himself to the MMA world in terms of just how good he is.
Okay. And take us home for this Bellator card, Mark. What could be next for both of these gentlemen here?
So Shabily goes to the final for the $1 million that I assume is still going to happen in some fashion. It is a shame for him that it is not going to be the title shot against Usman Nurmagomedov that it was supposed to be, because he really does deserve a fight like that after what we just saw. But he is going to get, as I was just touching on, probably Brent Primus, maybe AJ McKee, depending what they decide to do. So that's what he's got. He'll have a shot at $1 million at least, not the title just yet. And for Patricky, as I said, if McKee's not getting that other fight, I think you finally just make that McKee-Patricky fight. Let us see it.
All right. So that does it for our recaps of Bellator 301, Amosov versus Jackson. Huge congrats to Jason Jackson once again. Stunning stuff. And now we're going to move over to the UFC side of things here. UFC Fight Night, Allen versus Craig went down at the UFC Apex this past Saturday night in Las Vegas, Nevada. And here we go. Brendan Allen in the main event dispatches Paul Craig in the third round. The official time, 38 seconds of round number 3. I'll tell you, this fight felt like it was shorter than making it into the third round because of how dominant Brendan Allen was. Mark, start us off once again. I'm letting you start off both of these Bellator and UFC because Brendan Allen is your boy. So
It's true.
let's hear it.
It's true.
Dude, Brendan Allen is a fucking goon. Man, I love this guy. He does not care. He comes in all chill. He dials the fuck in when that bell rings, and he just breaks dudes. And it's like, I feel like he doesn't, maybe it's because of the look of him or the way he sounds in some of his interviews, or even at the beginning of that fight, you see Craig all intense and Allen's like laughing him off. It's like people don't look at him like this guy that's breaking dudes, but that's exactly what he is doing. And he broke Craig bit by bit in this fight, minute by minute. There was no advantage that Craig could find anywhere. Brendan Allen is one hell of a grappler. But as we've said time and time again, he can do it all. And that's why he's such a threat coming up in this division, because he is dangerous everywhere. And this one, I just said, talked about a showcase in the last fight we recapped. This was a showcase too, big time, for Brendan Allen as a potential title contender. He dominated Paul Craig in a main event, in a card built around him. You got to think that a big name opponent is in the offing for Brendan Allen at this point.
Yeah, man. Omar, what were your thoughts of Brendan Allen looking the way he did against the great Scott?
So I think this is almost the complete opposite of what we were talking about with Sergio Pettis and Patchy mix, in the sense that Paul Craig is known for his submission game, right? He's known for being the guy that if you fuck around down there, chances are you about to find out, right? A lot of guys who go down there. I mean, look at Jamal Hill. Jamal Hill was having a great time beating on Paul Craig until he went down to the ground, fucked around, dislocated his whole shit. Paul Craig may not necessarily be the best at setting up a submission from A to Z, but he is a very good opportunistic submission artist. At least that's what we've seen in performances, right? Brendan Allen didn't give a shit about what Paul Craig brought to the table. His grappling was solid. He didn't give him any room off of his base. He didn't give him any extra limbs to work off of. This dude was very tight, very composed, and frankly just took advantage of the fact that Paul Craig is content being on the bottom for an entire fight if he needs to be. And it works for works for him sometimes. And a lot of times when he can't get a guy where he wants him, like Brendan Allen, he's just going to lose that fight because he doesn't necessarily adjust very well to anything else. It's seems to be either this game plan or bust. And Brendan Allen is just too diverse of a fighter for that to be the case. And like I said, just took full advantage of Paul Craig in that fight. And I mean, I feel like I took the bold pick with that one, right? I went submission with Brendan Allen there.
Yes, you did.
I did, right?
I nailed the round 3, but I was on the wrong type of finish.
Let's go, baby. Let's go.
Well, I feel foolish. I admit. I had to say, though, I was not a Brendan Allen hater, but I'm a little surprised in Paul Craig, man. I did not think that he was going to get kind of dominated like this. But he did.
Oh, he got dominated. You could say it.
He did. Still love the guy, though. Love both of these guys, honestly. This was one of those fights where I did not want to see either guy lose. So, but it was a great kind of a litmus test, kind of for both guys in a certain sense, because Paul Craig is not one to be messed with. So a great test for Allen.
There will be more. There will be other fights at middleweight where Paul Craig is going to look better than that. I think he just ran into a guy who is firing on all cylinders at this moment.
Brendan Allen's still young, man. Isn't he still like 27, I think?
Somewhere around there. That sounds accurate.
Yeah, man.
Let's see.
So,
yep, that's exactly right.
After the fight, Brendan Allen is saying he wants a top contender. Mark, what do you think could be next for Brendan Allen?
So, I think it's one of two guys. I think it's Marvin Vettori, or it could conceivably be Khamzat Chimaev, which I think would be a really interesting opponent for Khamzat, which makes me wonder if the UFC stays away from that because they want Khamzat to end up in the title picture, and Brendan Allen is a little bit of a risk. But I think either of those guys are a great option. Cannonier's hurt. Izzy's out for a while. Obviously, Strickland and Duplessis are fighting each other. Whitaker is hanging around. I know he said he doesn't like the Brendan Allen fight. I know he's still trying to get that Usman fight, which is what I want him to get. I love that fight. So, yeah, to me, it's Vettori or Chimaev, and I think both are great.
Omar, any other thoughts?
I mean, I know Paul Acosta is going to be out for a minute. I think time frame wise, that probably could work out. So I think I'll go the Paul Acosta.
What about the Scotsman, Paul Craig? Omar, any thoughts on where he could possibly go next for a more favorable matchup at 185 pounds?
I mean, I know Fluffy's got something, right? Fluffy got something?
No, because he got hurt and it got canceled, right? So I don't think he has anything.
Is that what it is?
No.
I know I've thrown a name out there for Fluffy in the last couple of weeks, but...
Yeah, he doesn't have anything. I don't know how long he's hurt for. That's the only thing, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'd still like to see that fight. I think him versus Paul Craig is a very, very, very interesting fight stylistically.
Mark?
I agree. That'd be a fun one. I think I matched Jack Hermanson up with someone else last week, but I'm going to go Jack Hermanson. And I bet I like this better than whoever I said last week because I really do like the idea of Paul Craig and Jack Hermanson in there. I think they're very similar. Obviously, Hermanson would have the advantage on the feet. Craig more so in the ability to find a submission, but I think seeing them on the ground would be really interesting because of Hermanson's wrestling. A little Sweden versus Scotland. So, yeah, that's good booking.
Like it. All right, moving on from that main event at UFC Fight Night, Allen versus Craig, we go to the co-main, a welterweight clash between Michael Morales and Jake Matthews, and Michael Morales stays undefeated, defeating Jake Matthews on the scorecards unanimously. The scores read at 30-27, 29-28, and 29-28, all three once again for the Colombian Michael Morales. Omar, what are your thoughts?
Michael Morales is good, man. The power differential I thought was super visible between him and Jake Matthews, and it's not like Jake Matthews can't crack, but just seemed like every time Michael Morales put hands on Jake Matthews had to take a step back just to kind of absorb the impact. I thought it was a good fight. Huh?
Every fight. Everyone he hits looks like they got hit by something different.
Yeah. He's got a lot of power in there, man. And it was a good fight for Michael Morales, man. His technique is solid, man. He's a very, very good striker. He uses his length the right way. Even his infighting, when he does end up getting in close, I think is very good. And a guy like Jake Matthews, where we've seen him have a lot of success recently in the striking and things like that. When you got a guy that's going to outstrike you, especially that's going to outstrike you from the outside, it does not bode well. And it just, especially with whatever power Morales seems to carry with it, it was a devastating night for Jake Matthews, man. A beautiful performance from Michael Morales. His power and his striking was really on display that night. And it was great. It's great to watch.
Yeah, man. Mark, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, agreed. This was a good scrap. Both of them left it out there for sure. Neither guy could really grab a huge edge over the other. It really did just come down to that reach advantage of Michael Morales making the difference, like we thought that it might. Because Jake fought well, and he did find shots, but he just couldn't set things up the same way that he's usually able to. He couldn't counter the same. He couldn't jab the same, and it was all because of that reach, man. It makes a big difference, and Michael Morales knows how to use it. He manages the range really, really well. He found times to step in and to blitz Matthews, really, and he mixes angles with it. And he fought perfectly, and it was a learning fight for him too. I think to be in, with a scrap against an experienced guy like Matthews, and he passed the test and keeps it moving. Undefeated record still intact.
Okay, yeah, man. Michael Morales is a massive welterweight. He looks like a giant in there. And Jake Matthews, not a tiny guy. Not a tiny guy. That being said, what is next for this rising young phenom in Michael Morales? Mark?
I'll go with Chaos Williams. He hasn't been booked in a while. He needs a fight. I feel like they're pretty equally threatening guys. And I think the winner of that fight would be positioned really well to potentially be fighting a ranked fighter or someone at least right on the edges of the rankings. So that is where I'll go.
I like it. I like that. Omar?
I think I'm going to be a little bit more bullish, perhaps, although I don't know where the fuck this guy is anymore in the rankings. But I think I'm going to have him as maybe fighting the winner of Neil Magny and Mike Malott.
Ooh, Mike Malott.
I forgot
Michael Morales. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
it's a good fight. Mike Malott's got some real nice momentum under him, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Yeah, man.
Yep.
Okay, moving on. Here we go. Lightweight division. Chase Hooper proves me wrong again. I got this one wrong. Defeated Jordan Leavitt by submission via rear naked choke in the very first round. The official time 2:58 of round one. Omar, give us your thoughts.
This is a wild little fight because I'm still not sure if I'm sold on Jake Hooper's striking. What did I call him? I didn't call him Chase. What did I call him? Did I say Jake?
Is what you said, yes.
That's not his name. Yeah, I'm not sold on Chase Hooper's striking just yet. He obviously got hit with some shit in that fight. Before it went down to the ground, he was able to recover and work his way into the area where he wanted to be in, which I thought was also very a good sign for him because Jordan Leavitt is no slouch on the ground. I think he's also very good in the jiu-jitsu realm. But Chase Hooper definitely looked like he was, on a different level in comparison on the ground, looked a lot more comfortable, had a lot more control. And obviously, all in all, was able to end it relatively quickly, especially after getting cracked a couple of times. I mean, there was a moment there where I'm not sure Chase Hooper was looking straight. So it was good on him to recover and have a massive comeback in that fight.
Yeah, man. Mark?
Great win for Chase Hooper, man. 2-0 at lightweight and looking good. And these two went straight to the grappling. It seemed like Leavitt didn't want to mess with anything else. As soon as Hooper came out trying to walk him down, Leavitt just went straight to it. And we did get to see some great transitions from the two of them, so that was fun. But the transition that this man, Chase Hooper, hit us with to win that fight was friggin' chef's kiss. He started from 50-50 position, sat up, spun away to the back shoulder, got free, took the back, rolled through, got his hooks in, and choked Leavitt out all in about 20 seconds. From 50-50 to a tap in about 20 seconds. Just a filthy finish for Chase and a big win in a spotlight fight where he was on a main card.
Yeah. I tell you what, though, he looks better at 155.
1,000,000%.
He doesn't look nearly as sunk in. I mean, he looks significantly stronger, just visibly, than what he looked at 145. So I'm glad he moved up.
Completely agree.
Okay, sorry for coughing. Omar, give us an opinion on what could be next for this new and improved and filled out Chase Hooper.
I mean, the nice thing about Chase Hooper is he's got a little bit of recognition behind him, right? He's had the Baby Askren thing, and I think he's recognizable enough that you could probably give him somebody that makes with a little bit of name value, even though maybe they're not closer to them in the rankings. I'm not sure exactly which one I wanted to go in the direction of, but Michael Johnson recently has a fight with Darius Flowers on February 10th. I'm not sure if I want to go with winner for Chase Hooper or loser, but that might be a nice little rock to skip off of, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Mark, your thoughts?
You trying to get Chase killed?
I mean, where we at, baby? We're in the UFC. Let's go. Get to work.
Fair enough. I think Chase, as I'm kind of just alluding to right now, I think he is tough to match up because it still feels like the wrong matchup could get him killed in about 30 seconds, and Michael Johnson could be that type of guy. So I'll try to avoid that, at least for now. He's only 2-0 at lightweight. I'll give him one more that feels like it doesn't carry the knockout type of danger before we cross that bridge. But I'll still give him a step up, and I'll go with Ricky Glenn. Veteran guy.
Ooh.
Certainly could hurt Chase.
Oh, definitely.
He's on a skid himself, and maybe Chase can break through a little bit and get a win over a veteran there, and then we throw him to the Sharks.
Let's go.
Dude, I totally missed Chase Hooper has been in the UFC for 8 fights already.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Because he still looks so youthful.
I guess I just don't remember there being 8 fights.
Yeah, because he was up and down for a while when he was a featherweight. I mean, what was he 3-3 as a featherweight? I think he was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally,
He's on this 2-fight little nice streak in lightweight.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, all right. Next fight, Amanda Ribas, round 3 TKO over Luana Pinheiro. My goodness, the official time. Where's the official time here? 3:53 of round number 3. Great stuff from Ribas here. Omar, start us off. Give us your take on this battle between these two fantastic lady strawweights.
I was going to say, dude, I mean, to be fair, this was a great fight from both ladies. Amanda Ribas walked away with a nice victory, a nice spinning back kick, a nice sequence to end, to have on your highlight reel for sure. But, like, look at her at the end of that fight. That girl is lumped up. She looks like she just got, like, Hollywood makeup put on her after getting beat up in, like, a backyard. She was lumped up everywhere. Right side, left side, forehead, all of it. Like, she's going to be sore and different colors on her face for, like, the next week. Pinheiro did work, and so did Ribas. This was a massively back and forth fight for a good majority of it. And I don't know if it was a strike necessarily, or if it was just a result of her hitting a wall from a cardio standpoint. But at some point, Pinheiro hit that wall and hit it hard, and Ribas took full advantage of it because it doesn't look like Ribas hits walls at all. And they say a lot of the time, man, that cardio is the scariest opponent that any fighter can encounter. And is one of the biggest fears that they have. Not getting knocked out, not fighting somebody bigger than them necessarily. Some of the biggest fears that fighters have is making sure you don't gas in the middle of a fight. I know the feeling just from training. Just the feeling of being gassed is the worst. Your body doesn't respond. Your mind works, but your body is just like, fuck you. And I think that's where Pinheiro got placed into in that third round and got completely mollywopped by Ribas to end that fight. So beautiful ending sequence by Ribas. Beautiful fight between the two women. I don't think Pinheiro has anything to be ashamed about. Probably some things to work on from the cardio department, but a great performance from both women.
Mark, your thoughts?
Amanda Ribas, man, she gets it done. It wasn't always smooth sailing. Round 1 was a bit rough, as Omar alluded to. Pinheiro certainly had her moments. As good as Ribas is offensively, and she's very good, she does always seem to get hit. That head movement has to improve a little bit.
Facts.
But she adjusted to it in 2 different ways come round 2. First off, she started kicking, which changed the range, as Dom pointed out on commentary in that fight, and he was right. And secondly, she started to stand her ground and counter when Luana moved forward, instead of just backing up, which she was doing all of round 1, and it was getting her stuck. So she changed both of those things, and they changed the fight for her. She started landing more. Pinheiro was wearing down, and it all really started to swing in Amanda's favor. And then what a finish from the freaking spinning wheel kick to the right that dropped Pinheiro. It was beautiful. So a great job from Ribas. Great way to reintroduce herself to the 115-pound division, and she is right in the mix.
Yeah, man. Okay, let's talk about what could be next for Amanda Ribas. My goodness. Mark?
I think she is the perfect opponent for Amanda Lemos. Two dangerous girls. Lemos needs a fight. Amanda's fought most of these other girls already. She has not fought Lemos. And I think that one positions the winner of that fight to be right back in the mix in a big way. So that's where I'll go.
Okay. Omar, any other thoughts?
Actually, Lemos is where I was going as well. I think Lemos at this point had some decent opportunities, hasn't capitalized them on the most part. So I think she's kind of got to solidify her place. She's 4th right now in the division. Ribas is number 9 officially after that win against Pinheiro. But this division has kind of been weird for a little bit. So I do like the fight. I love the matchup. Ribas has a real shot of fucking Lemos up and has also a real shot of getting knocked straight out.
This is true. Any thoughts for Luana Pinedo? Omar?
For Pinheiro, probably at this point, Tabitha Ricci after her recent loss would probably be a good way to go.
Mark, any thoughts for Pinheiro?
I actually didn't think of that. I might like
Pinedo?
that. I mean, I like mine as well. I'll go Angela Hill. Angela Hill deserves another step up. Her issue is that she's fought a lot of these girls and lost, and someone above her who she has not fought is Pinheiro. So that's where I'll go.
Okay, one more for UFC here. This one, I also looked bad for this one. Don't pick with me anymore, folks.
For those keeping score at home who may be interested, we keep track of our picks. And Mike has been in the lead for I think he took the lead in February or maybe even in January. And he has been in the lead for the entire year. And your boy caught him this weekend. So we are tied in picks. And it is going to be a photo finish in December here. So stay tuned.
The 11th hour. You got it. You're sneaking in here. I look bad. I really believed in Pearce here. But Joanderson Brito gets the 2nd round submission over Jonathan Pearce. What was the official time here? Where are we? 3:54 of the 2nd round. Mark, give us your thoughts on Brito. Looking pretty damn impressive over the larger man in Pearce.
Joanderson Brito will finish a fight from anywhere in any way and do it suddenly. At a minute 17 on the clock, he still had his knee on the ground as he was trying to stand up from being underneath Jonathan Pearce. And by 107, Pearce was tapping. I mean, that's insane. Just a beautiful friggin' ninja choke that he locked up out of nowhere. And he looked good all fight. Yes, Pearce had moments. Obviously, Pearce spent some time on top. But Brito showed off his strength and his power all fight long. And this dude is a finisher of the highest order. And that's a great win for him.
Sure is. Omar, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the thing I loved most about this fight was apparently leading up to it, Jonathan Pearce kept getting asked about, what are you going to do if he stops takedowns or if he gets back up? And apparently Jonathan Pearce was like, well, then he has to do it. Let him do it. Show me he can do it. And apparently Joanderson Brito, it literally was able to just get up, sink in that choke, and really make this kid eat his words. I mean, granted, there is, Brito looked like he was in a bit of trouble. He looked like he was in a bit of trouble early on as far as just a performance standpoint. No real risk of being finished or anything like that, but just things were not going necessarily as planned. But he adjusted well, found a nice opportunity, sunk in that ninja choke really nice and tight. And I mean, just like Mark said, didn't take very long for him to tap to that.
Yeah, great stuff from Brito. Mark, give us the name of who Joanderson Brito should be fighting next.
So he deserves to step up. And the name I'm going to say may not feel like that because he's relatively new, but Muhammadjan Naimov recently beat Nathaniel
done.
Wood, if you remember that fight,
Well done.
and thrust himself into the mix. So I'm going to match those two up. I think Naimov, obviously, he beat Nathaniel Wood, but it was a little bit of a weird fight. I think he kind of still needs to prove it before he gets something bigger. So I think putting him and Brito in there makes sense and lets someone truly emerge.
Nice. Omar, any other thoughts on that?
I thought a fight with him and Billy Q would be a good way to go.
Oh, baby.
Oh, yeah.
That's violence.
Nice. All right, boys. Any undercard fights or fighters or performances that you guys just want to quickly highlight before we move on?
I will touch on McKee Oralbai, who took a short notice replacement fight against Uros Medic. I forget how many days, like 3 or 4 days. I don't even remember. And dominated him. And the dude is a lightweight. And he took this fight at welterweight and grinded out Medic all fight long. Medic, he was supposed to fight a striker. Got this guy short notice. Definitely some tough circumstances for him. But he's shown some grappling before, and he had nothing for this dude Oralbai. I mean, he just methodically out-wrestled and then eventually out-grappled Medic. And to do that to a solid welterweight, when supposedly they're saying striking is Oralbai's best attribute, and he didn't even show it in this fight, and he's actually a lightweight, is saying something. So I'm definitely interested to see this guy next time out.
Oh, shit.
Omar?
No. I actually didn't catch a lot of these fights, but I have to go back apparently and watch, because I've seen now this picture of this man floating all over the internet, right? And I sent you guys earlier this caveman picture, a fight that has been waiting 50,000 years to happen between him and Clay Guida. It's fantastic. It's a beautiful movie.
It was very funny.
But yeah, I didn't get a chance to watch a lot of these fights. I had to catch up not only on these fights, but the Bellator fights. And so,
yeah, that's why we for people expecting the lightning round, that's why we nixed the lightning round this week. There's too many fights with all the big Bellator fights. And we got to
talk about.
We got to preview a whole PFL card for you too in a minute here. So a lot of action.
Yes, sir. All right. That being said, let's find out who rose and who fell on the heels of this UFC fight night in Mark's own rankings that he maintains that we call the Priaulx Rankings. Mark.
A lot of action here as well. One notable faller, and I'm going to give you 6 risers. The faller is Jordan Leavitt. He fell from number 53 to number 58 in my lightweight rankings. He's been a little bit up and down. Obviously takes a loss here that hurts him a bit, so he takes a tumble. And then the risers, 6 of them, I will work my way up from the bottom of the card. You have Rafael Estevam, who was not ranked, making his debut. He knocked off Charles Johnson. So he debuts as my number 25 flyweight. You have Jose Johnson, who got a great win over Chad and Helliger. He jumps from my number 64 to number 53 bantamweight. I just fucking scrolled up by accident. Next guy, the man I just talked about, McKee Oralbai, not ranked, debuted. He beat Uros Medic out the gate. So he is in my rankings as the number 29 welterweight already. He is a lightweight, so I'm sure his next fight is going to be a lightweight, and we'll see how that shakes out, and I'll move him over. But for the moment, that's what this guy just did in his debut. And then moving up to the main card, some of these fights we really broke down here. Chase Hooper moves up. Steady progress, nothing huge, but he goes from number 66 to number 57 in my lightweight rankings. Michael Morales continues his methodical ascent up the ranks. He goes from number 36 to number 25 in my welterweight ranks. And then the man on the marquee, well, not our marquee, but the man on the UFC marquee, Brendan Allen, went from number 13 to number 7 in my middleweight rankings. I've been wanting to bump him. He's been just on the edge, and he has certainly earned it now. So he is my number 7 middleweight. And that is it for this week.
Nice. All right, let's keep this thing rolling along. Omar, take us inside the MMA sphere. Let us know what's going on in the world of mixed martial arts outside of the cages.
Well, the biggest news that we're going to have this entire week is basically the officialness of the worst kept secret in MMA, in recent history anyway, The PFL has officially purchased Bellator, and they are merging to a certain extent. There are a lot of little details and nuances, but overall, basically what happened was PFL was able to purchase Bellator from Paramount with no cash. The entire purchase was made through a deal consisting of, I guess, equity and stock options. And so Paramount is now basically a minority stakeholder in the brand in PFL. And so that seems how they're basically making that work. I believe, Mark, you said one side didn't want to sell for too low, the other side didn't want to buy for too much, and so the way that they met in the middle was by essentially trading equity for the ability to raise the value of it to, I guess, sell later on or something like that.
Basically, that PFL doesn't have to give up more than they wanted in these stock options, but why am I blanking? Paramount? Is that the name of the
Paramount?
Mm-hmm. But that Paramount gets the opportunity to get in and have these stock options that end up being worth much more down the line if everyone does as well as everyone's hoping they will do. So
yeah,
that was the way they kind of settled things.
Yeah, and so it seems for the time being, Bellator will continue to run as normal-ish through 2024. There would be moments where Bellator and PFL fighters will potentially fight each other. They're already talking about champions versus champions, which is a great idea, something that we talked about last week. But then I started to think, Chael Sonnen said something I thought was interesting, where he was like, but then what's the point? Like, if we're just doing fights to do fights, and that's fine, but there's no one's actually fighting for anything, right? Like, these champions are not getting Bellator belts, I don't imagine. Bellator champions aren't going to be getting PFL belts if they win.
Yeah, so they said the belts wouldn't be on the line. They said it would be like a bragging rights card of champs against each other.
That's very interesting. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
But it does seem that Scott Coker will still be in the mix to some extent. I don't believe he's going anywhere in the near future right now. But yeah, things seem to be going the direction of, the roster getting interchanged. People, it seems like, are able to go between PFL and Bellator, I believe, to a certain extent within reason. So if people aren't happy necessarily with the format of PFL, they can move over to Bellator if they prefer that format, and vice versa. So it does seem like there's going to be a lot of opportunity for fighters in both of the promotions at this point. I know they're planning on holding a lot more events than what they held last year as well. So there'll be a lot more opportunities for fighters to get on cards as well throughout the year. So should be interesting. I guess we'll see what comes of it. I'm sure we'll see a nice little refresh from Bellator, logos and production packages and all that stuff. I will say the PFL has better production, or has better production than Bellator does by like a long shot. So hopefully they get that production value up in Bellator, and it doesn't look like the stepchild of the MMA world.
Anything to save me from Big John on commentary. Not like I want the guy to lose his job, but God, I can't stand him on commentary.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of his post referee life.
Yeah, it's wild, man. I obviously, as MMA fans, you kind of wish they were just saying like, we're gonna combine the rosters and make fights. Like that'd be fun for all of us. This idea of them remaining separate kind of kills the buzz a little bit. But as you said, they did mention like, okay, if you're a guy who thinks you could excel in the season format in Bellator, you could potentially come over and participate in that. If you're someone in the PFL, like I think you said this, that he mentioned Pettis didn't really love that season format, that he could kind of fight wherever he wanted to fight to get one-off fights against names. So I guess there is going to be some crossover, it seems. I don't know what the point is of not just saying like we have one roster. I don't know why you want to kind of keep things separate, but we'll see what they do. I don't know if it's just that they want to have a card that says Bellator versus PFL and they think that will sell, and maybe that's why they're keeping it separate for the time being. I don't know. But obviously there's some big fights. I mean, the ones you think of right away are Chris Cyborg finally fighting Kayla Harrison fighting Larissa Pacheco. Either of those would be huge, huge fights for Chris Cyborg. So hopefully we get at least that. But there's others that could be really fun as well. So yeah, hopefully they allow it.
Yep. Yeah, it's actually a really nice prospect to imagine that we might get certain fights that we probably didn't think before we were going to get. But I guess we'll see. 2024 will be a very different year for Bellator and for the PFL as well. Ngannou will officially be in the ranks, actually go up competing for PFL. So it'll be a big, big year, I think, for that company. And well,
not sure he takes an MMA fight in 2024.
I didn't think the Saudi Arabia thing was going to happen, honestly, until it actually did. So, I mean, who knows?
I think his next fight's in boxing. Personally,
you think? I mean, it's a good time to milk that cow for sure. Yeah, but it's nice to know he can bounce back and forth if he needs.
They ranked him. He's the number 10 heavyweight in the world.
I know.
Crazy.
It is wild. Definitely wild. All right, so that was the big MMA news. We're going to leave it there. We're going to do some fun announcements, and then we are going to hop right into the PFL previews. So we have Jim Miller versus Gabriel Benitez. That fight has been added to UFC's Vegas card on January 13th. No, yes, January. That's a month. I was right. Jasmine Jasudavicius versus Priscilla Cachoeira has been added to UFC's 297 event on January 20th. Roman Dolitz versus Nasruddin Imavov headlines UFC's February 3rd event. Trevin Giles versus Carlos Prates.
I don't even know what that
Carlos. He has been added to UFC's February 10th event. This is a welterweight bout. Brad Tavares versus Gregory Hobocop Rodriguez.
Let's go.
Added to UFC's February 10th event as well. Along
Who's fighting
with
Robocop? I'm sorry.
Brad Tavares.
Oh, fuck yeah. Wow. Sorry, I was reading.
Yeah, it's a great fight.
Love it.
And then the formerly alluded to Michael Johnson versus Darius Flowers. That fight has been added to UFC's February 10th event as well. Last one we have here, Marcos Rogerio de Lima versus Justin Tafa. That heavyweight fight has been added to UFC's 298 event on February 17th. And that is all we have for you this week.
Oh, nice. Oh, baby.
Mike's good for one oh baby per episode.
At least.
You know me. Anybody who's been with us for many, many episodes can probably tell us, all three of us, our things.
For sure.
Create a fucking drinking game off of our habits.
How many times I itch my nose during the show? 40 million.
How many times I turn around to give shit to my cats?
Or fall asleep.
Or look like you're dying of exhaustion.
Here we go, 9 previews, baby. Buckle up.
2 or 3 times at this point. Which isn't bad considering we've done like 120 episodes or whatever.
I know. We're making pretty good time on this one. Lots to do still, but we're doing well.
And I still have energy. So let's go.
Sure do.
I don't.
Sure do.
Let's do it.
Let's fucking do it.
Man, my beard is getting super gray. Look at that.
So is my hair.
Old, bro. You're old.
I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Let's see. Where are we here? We have PFL 10 going down at the Anthem in Washington, D.C. This is the finals of the 2023 season of the Professional Fighters League. Is it fighters or fight? Let me make sure that's right.
I think it's fighters.
Yeah.
I don't know how it would escape to me that their thing apparently is the fighters make the fights. That's like that's why they're because of how their tournament format is all set up and stuff like that. It's like the fighters are responsible for who ends up fighting who.
I see.
But that's I guess that's how they sell it though, is like the fighters make the fights. We don't make fights here at PFL. The fighters do. Thought it was interesting.
That's true.
Yeah.
In the tournament format, in the season format, I guess. But they still pick who's fighting who when it starts.
What do we start
the whole
with
season? don't they?
I don't know.
It's only
I
once
was
it
listening
enters
to
the
the
playoffs.
that was the tagline he was, and you could tell it was like a selling some marketing came up with, but
I'd have to hear what he was saying.
yeah.
All right. Before we get into the fights that we're going to preview and pick, are there any other fights or fighters on this card that you guys want to quickly spotlight for our fans and listeners?
It's like the whole fucking card.
Not necessary for me. We're doing 9 fights.
Yeah.
We start. Hey, man, I'm just reading what's on the card for me to say.
That's fair.
Thank you. We start things off in the featherweight division. Bubba Jenkins versus Chris, the Long Island Killer. Wait. Here we go. Bubba Jenkins. I'm a bad man. That's his nickname. He's the 35-year-old out of California, 21-7 as a pro, looking to get back in the win column after losing to Jesus Pinedo. And Chris Wade is the 36-year-old out of Long Island, New York, also losing to Gabriel Braga back in August. His record stands at 23-10 coming into this weekend. Mark, start us off. Give us your take and your pick of Jenkins versus Wade.
So this could have been the final. A lot of people thought it was going to be the final, and they both lost their semifinal fight. So here we are. PFL decided to book the trilogy. These two are 1-1 against each other. I skipped the odds. Bubba Jenkins is minus 175 as the favorite. Chris Wade is plus 145. So yeah, trilogy fight, as I said. The second fight of this trilogy just happened in April, and Bubba took it pretty damn clearly. So for me, I just don't see why it would be much different. I think Bubba has progressed more than Wade has since their first fight that Wade won. I think you saw that come to fruition in their second fight, and I think you'll see it here. Bubba did look pretty bad against Pinedo. I don't know if it was just an outlier fight or what, but he did struggle there. Obviously, Pinedo was way bigger, so that may have had something to do with it. But I do think he'll be motivated to bounce back here. These guys don't like each other. Bubba will want to ensure that he takes the trilogy, and I think he'll do just that. So I will say Bubba Jenkins, UD.
Omar.
Yeah, I'd have to agree, especially with the last performance that they've had together. I think that Bubba Jenkins was a much better fighter back then, in comparison to Wade. And I still think that that's probably going to be the same result now. I don't think anything's changed. It's only been a few months. So I'm also going to go with Bubba Jenkins here by unanimous decision.
Yeah, we're unanimous on this one. I think at this point, we can safely say that Bubba Jenkins has Chris Wade's number. I will also take Bubba Jenkins by UD. And here we go. Let's talk about our first title fight, our first final in this event. Jesus Pinedo versus Gabriel Braga. Hold on one second. Jesus Pinedo, I'm looking for him here. There he is. Going down for the Bellator Featherweight Championship. Jesus. What did I say?
Bellator.
Son of a bitch. Same thing now, baby. Technically, not a slip up. Jesus El Mudo Pinedo, the 27-year-old out of Peru. He's 22-6 with one draw. And he is in the final. He's had a hell of a year this year, man. My God, he is the one who took out Brendan Loughnane back in June of this year, kind of making a big splash in the PFL world and MMA world overall. And he'll be taking on Gabriel Braga for the chip, 25 years old, out of Brazil, undefeated 12-0. 5 of his 12 wins have been by knockouts. Omar, give us your take and your pick for this final.
Yeah, another fight where these guys have already met. It went Gabriel Braga's way the last time. The recent performances from Pinedo, though, have looked absolutely fantastic. I think I'm going to stick with Pinedo on this one, although I do know that he's lost to Gabriel Braga not too long ago. I think he can get it, man. I think he can get it. So I'm going to go with Jesus Pinedo here by split decision.
Okay. Mark?
So just so you guys know, I don't know if you know or not, but all these finals are 5-round fights. So factor that in as you're making these picks. Only the finals, not the Brunson and the Kayla, but the ones that are finals. So yeah, odds dead even, -110, -110. I've seen places where Braga's slightly favored, seen places where Pinedo's slightly favored. All in all, we got even odds. 3 inches of height and 2 inches of reach for Pinedo. He is the bigger man. As Omar said, Gabriel Braga did win a split decision the first time they met. I know Braga's undefeated, but I'm going with Pinedo here, and I'm actually doing it pretty confidently. The size for Pinedo is a lot. He looked so big in his last fight. Granted, he missed weight, so we'll see if he can make the weight here. But he looked like an absolute murderous buzzsaw. And Gabriel Braga, as much as he won the first fight, as much as he won his last fight, he was getting hit cleanly by Chris Wade. And even in the first fight with Pinedo, when Pinedo turned up the aggression, he was able to take that fight over. Now, it was too late. He had already let 2 rounds pass. But this time, I think we get that aggression the whole way through. And if Wade can land on Braga, I think Pinedo can. And I think Pinedo finds something big and hurts Gabriel Braga. Plus the confidence Pinedo's got to have coming into this fight after finishing Loughnane and Bubba back-to-back. It's got to be sky high. So give me Pinedo, round 2 knockout.
Oh, baby. Omar, what did you say?
Split decision for Pinedo.
I don't hate it.
Mike's staring at the undefeated record.
I know. This is gonna be one though, but man, I like Pinedo so much. I'm gonna roll with Pinedo here. I'm gonna say he gets it done, and he gives the younger man. Look at me, taking off my training wheels. I'm gonna say he gives the younger man his first loss here in a big spot. Pinedo, you said the word perfectly. It's my favorite word for him. He is a fucking buzzsaw at 145 pounds. Give me Pinedo, not only handing Braga his first loss, but a knockout loss. I'll say round 2. And he's the champ. We're going home with the check.
Same as me.
We're identical.
Unanimous from us on a 50-50 fight. That's very interesting.
Son.
Can't wait till I'll be wrong next week.
Yeah, right. Let's go now to a very fun fight. Ray Cooper III welcoming Derek Brunson to the PFL. Ray Cooper III is a 30-year-old out of Hawaii, 25-8 as a pro, most recently defeating Brett Cooper more than 1 year ago. Derek Brunson, coming off of 2 back-to-back UFC losses at the hands of Jared Cannonier and Dricus du Plessis, but who are they? Doesn't matter anymore. Fresh start for Derek the One Brunson.
The one.
Mark, give us your take and your pick. Yeah, that's his nickname on Sherdog.
Interesting. I don't think I knew
Yeah,
that.
maybe it's new. Give us your take and your pick.
All right. Ray Cooper is a -180 favorite here. Derek Brunson is +150 as the dog. Derek Brunson is going to have a 6-inch height and 7-inch reach advantage.
Christ.
It's a lot. This fight for me is legitimately impossible to pick because Cooper was not a big welterweight, and now he's fighting at 185. And as you just heard, he's given up huge size to Derek Brunson, but he comes with huge aggression and the type of power that can turn Brunson into weird Brunson. You know, when something's not going his way and he gets clipped. And we've also seen Cooper beat another top shelf wrestler in Magomed Karimov, so we know he can beat that type of game. Derek Brunson is 39 years old and is showing a concerning fall off in any fight that isn't going perfectly how he wants it to. But at the same time, every loss he had in the UFC was to a top 5 talent. And as I said, he is huge in this fight. So it's hard. There's reasons to not believe in either guy, and there's reasons to believe in either guy. And Brunson does start strong. You know, in his very last fight, he took Dricus du Plessis down, and he won round 1 against Dricus, who may be the champion soon if he beats Sean Strickland. Granted, this is the PFL, and he can't elbow if he gets Ray Cooper down. So that's going to be a weird adjustment for him that probably limits his ground and pound a bit, which I hate, by the way. I don't understand why that's the thing in the PFL. And then the durability of Brunson is a real concern for me because even if he wins round 1 and looks great, if he tires a little bit and gets cracked in round 2, I could see that fight go hugely south immediately. So I don't know. I think it's a coin toss. Derek Brunson dominating would not surprise me. Cooper KOing him in 2 minutes would not surprise me. I really think any result is on the table in this fight. It's a weird fight. I'm going to flip my coin and say Derek Brunson, you did.
Mark, Omar, your thoughts?
I'm still not sold on Derek Brunson, post UFC, pre UFC, current UFC. I'm going to go with Ray Cooper. Ray Cooper has exceeded my expectations on more than one occasion. I don't see why he should all of a sudden stop. So I'm going to go with Ray Cooper here by TKO round 3.
Omar has officially fallen asleep.
Facts.
I am with the sleepyhead on this one. Omar, you said it perfectly. Ray Cooper has exceeded my expectations enough to the point where I'm going to take him against Derek Brunson here to spoil the party, spoil the welcoming committee of Derek Brunson coming into the PFL. And I will take Ray Cooper the third by knockout. I'll go third round for Brada Boy. Let's now go to the women's featherweight division, lightweight division, right? Lightweight or featherweight? This is about
Feds, I want to say.
catchweight at 150 pounds.
So it was featherweight, but then when Bud dropped out and Ladd
Somebody
took it
did,
short,
right,
they made it 50.
Kayla Harrison taking on Aspen Ladd. What a fight. And what a fight for Aspen Ladd here. Kayla Harrison, the 33-year-old out of Middletown, Ohio, 15-1 as a pro. Of course, she is the former PFL women's featherweight champion. She last lost to Larissa Pacheco back in 2022. Aspen Ladd, newcomer from the UFC, is now 2-1 under the PFL banner. And overall, she's 11-4. Omar, give us your take and your pick between Harrison and Ladd.
Muted.
Son of a
bitch. I think it's a great fight stylistically. I think Aspen Ladd brings an interesting variable of her grappling to the table. I think the thing that concerns me the most is that it seems like Aspen Ladd has gotten worse, I guess, for lack of a better term, over the course of her career. We've seen her start really strong, almost buzzsaw-like, and then somewhere along the line that kind of stopped happening. I just think Kayla Harrison is such a good fighter, such a strong specimen of a woman that I don't think Aspen Ladd is going to be afforded any mistakes. And unfortunately, Aspen Ladd, I think, to me, is yet to have a perfect performance in that sense. So I think there's going to be enough opportunity for Kayla Harrison to take advantage. So I'm going to go with Kayla Harrison here. I think she gets the stoppage, round 2 submission.
Mark?
So Kayla is minus 900 as the favorite. Aspen Ladd is plus 600. I think that's a little aggressive. 2 inches of height for Kayla. Wait, for Kayla? Did I write that wrong? I would have thought that Kayla was shorter. Now I'm doubting myself. Is Kayla taller than I realize? I don't know. I'm going to have to circle back to that. Yeah, this one's interesting just because it's been a minute for Kayla. We haven't seen her in a year. Her last win was 15 months ago. And Aspen Ladd, if nothing else, has been active. Plus, as we're always saying about Aspen Ladd, there's talent there. And we've seen it before. It's just that she doesn't always manage to bring that talent out. But she is strong. She is capable of defensively wrestling. She is capable of reversing a position or creating some interesting moments in the grappling. And she is maybe the more dangerous of the two women on the feet. So there's a lot that makes Aspen Ladd live where I wouldn't have expected her to be a plus 600 dog. But Larissa Pacheco is a really, really talented fighter. And it took a great fight from her just to win 3 rounds out of 5 against Kayla. So I'm not going to pick against Kayla here. I think she can at least do enough, and at best maybe will look very good. but at least do enough. And she better be dialed in because now she has a Chris Cyborg fight waiting in the wings, and that goes away if she loses here. So she's got to be dialed in. Hopefully she will come out focused, and I will take her to win a UD.
Let's go. I think I'm just not ready to routinely be picking against Kayla Harrison. I think she's just going to be too big, too thick, too strong for Julia Budd here. Budd can surprise us with a bit of youthful athleticism over Harrison, who is getting up there a little bit.
You're saying Julia Budd. You mean to be saying Aspen Ladd?
Pardon me. That is correct. Thank you for the correction. Kayla Harrison by UD all day for this one. This is a simple pick for me.
And she is 2 inches taller. I did have it right.
There you have it.
I was surprised.
Okay, Impa Kasangane taking on Joshua Silveira. Kasangane, the 29-year-old. This is for the light heavyweight final. Excuse me. The gravity of this fight. Kasangane, 29-year-old out of North Carolina, 14-3 as a pro, has made it to the final. Former UFC vet as well. Joshua Silveira, Conina is his nickname. The 30-year-old out of Miami, Florida, 12-1 as a pro, has also made it here to the final here. He's a LFA vet himself. Omar, start us off. Keep those eyes open, baby. Keep them open. We're almost there, babe.
They're open. They are open. I like Kasangane here, man. I've that man's really grown on me, honestly, in the last couple of years, maybe even the last year or so. His performances have been really, really spectacular, and the size of his hand is absolutely massive, and I can see absolutely why people crumble once they get cracked by him. But he's seemed to have found something in the last few fights that really seem to get him on a nice little trajectory, a nice little momentum. So I'm going to stick with Kasangane here. I think he continues to crack people. I'm going to go with round one, KO.
Okay, Mark.
Impa is the favorite. He's minus 180. Josh Silveira is plus 155 on the other side. 2 inches of height for Josh. The reach is the same. Both of them are small light heavyweights, so they'll actually get to fight someone their own size here in the final instead of fighting some of the bigger dudes they've had to get through to get here. And yet again, I'm very torn. I think that Silveira is the more talented martial artist overall. He can strike, he can wrestle, he can grapple, he can kind of do it all. But Impa carries the nukes, man, and he's a strong dude. Probably the more athletic of the two. And he is on one hell of a run. So this is one of those typical matchups where I think one guy, Josh in this case, has to either be all the way in or all the way out, because on the outside he can work his kicks and be okay to try to keep that range. But in the boxing range, Impa's going to be really, really dangerous. And I am a little worried about Silveira's cardio in a 5-round fight. There was some signs in his last fight that it was fading in round 3. And I could see myself really regret doubting Impa here. This is my one that feels a little risky, but I'm just going to say that the game Impa has to play here is a little trickier than the game that Josh does, in that Josh can kind of keep it in or out, whichever he needs to in the moment, and Impa has to find that boxing range and find something. So I'm going to say Josh can find a sub in this fight, and I will take him by round 3, rear naked choke.
What are the odds again? Tell me the odds.
Minus 180 for Impa and plus 155 for Josh.
Wow.
It's close.
As impressive as Impa looks, Josh is technically on paper the bigger knockout threat, the bigger finish threat overall. I mean, the man is a savage here. That being said, I'm going to go off of their experience with Impa having UFC experience and Silveira coming out of LFA, which is probably the biggest regional show in the U.S. But Impa's also been on a tear, man. So I'm going to go with him. I'm going to say that he hands Silveira his first knockout loss. Give me Impa. I'll say round 1 knockout. He stunned Silveira, winning $1 million in the process.
Nice.
Okay, here we go to the welterweights. Let me get this going here. Magomed Karamov taking on Sadabu C for the welterweight championship, and once again, $1 million. How many times has that joke been made around PFL? Okay, Magomed Karamov, the 33-year-old out of Dagestan, Russia. His record stands at 33-6 with another 22 finishes, 13 of them knockouts. He's on a 5-fight win streak coming into this championship bout, and he's made it to the final. Prior to PFL, he was mostly in Europe, fighting on regional cards in Europe. Sadabu C is the 36-year-old out of Stockholm, Sweden. He is 16-6 with 2 draws and 1 no contest. Half of his wins have been knockout victories. He has also been on an absolute tear. He's on a 7-fight professional winning streak coming in to this championship match. He won last time, right? Last year?
Yes, he did.
So he's going for the repeat here. Yep. He made it into the final here by winning a split decision victory over Carlos Leal Miranda back in August. And here we go. Omar, start us off with your take and your pick for Sadabu C versus Magomed Karamov.
And real quick, Maga won in 2021. So they have won the last 2 of these combined.
Yes. I think this is one of those things that we end up seeing at the PFL a lot, or a lot of these rematches, just because of how circumstances tend to roll out. But I think it's an interesting fight. Magomed has just the type of record you would expect a Magomed to have. 33 wins, 6 losses. Nice little variation between TKOs and submissions and decisions. So it's, seemingly like he's pretty well rounded in that sense. I think I'm going to go with Magomed Karamov here, just because I have a feeling. I have a feeling. I do. So I'm going to go Magomed Karamov here by knockout round 1.
Wow. Man, both of these guys are absolute studs. I'll go next. I without knowing the odds. Although, Mark, can you just tell me the odds, just so I'm just curious? I'm going to guess that Sadabu is the favorite.
Oh,
It's
Magomed.
Magomed is -170. Sadabu is +135.
Okay. 170 seems like a lot, but that's fine.
So they're similar age. Sadabu is obviously longer, taller. I'm guessing he has a much longer reach. Do you have their reaches?
I do. Sadabu's 2 inches taller, and he has a 7-inch reach advantage.
That is significant.
Lot.
That being said, Magomed Karamov, he's a more lethal finisher with more finishes on his record. He has more subs than C even has total finishes. He has another 13 knockouts on top of that, and he is the younger man on top of that. So I'm going to go with Magomed Karamov to get this one in the bag. I think he's going to knock out Sadabu C, I'll say 3rd round. And once again, champion Magomed Karamov. Mark?
Nice. So yeah, as I said, -170 +135. C 2 inches taller, 7-inch reach advantage. This is another tough one. There's some tough ones on this card. Sadabu C has been on a hell of a run since the start of last year's season. As we said, he's the 2022 champ. He's looking to become a repeat champ. I've loved the way he's been fighting this year. He has had much more of a killer instinct than we saw last year, and it's evident in the finishes that he's getting. And that reach is a lot, and he knows how to use his reach, which makes him dangerous here. But Magomed did get him the first time they met back in 2021, and I think he can do it again here. And I'm really basing it off of C's most recent fight. He did not have an easy time with Carlos Leal, and it's because Leal was able to get inside. And I think Magomed can play that game way better than Leal even can. Plus, he'll be comfortable on the feet. He's a good striker himself. He's got to deal with the reach, of course, but I think he can do enough to find moments to get inside, change this fight with takedowns, and get the dub. So it's another one that I could see going either way, but I'm going to go with Maga Millions to be Maga Millions again and win via UD.
And Omar, what did you say?
He said Magomed round 1
Yeah.
KO, I think.
Correct. That is correct.
So we all said Magomed.
We did. We
Mhm.
did.
For some reason, I felt like you were going to take C.
Nope.
Okay, let me queue up the next. Omar, how you doing? You're hurting, buddy?
Dying. I'm dying inside.
Okay,
but
well.
it's fine.
I
It's fine.
just want to wrap you up in a blanket, my friend. Like a burrito.
I'll pass out before you're even done rapping.
Okay. All right, women's featherweight final. Larissa Pacheco back in the final after winning last year. Let's go. Larissa Pacheco this time taking on Marina. How do you say her last name again? Monknakina?
Monknakina, yep.
Thank you. Larissa Pacheco has made a splash, handing Kayla Harrison that loss. She's the 29-year-old out of Brazil, 22-4 as a pro. Only 3 of her wins have gone the distance. She has 11 knockout victories and 8 other submission victories. Like I said, she defeated Kayla Harrison to win it all last November. And here we are again. She's back in the final. She made it. She got here in style. She defeated Julia Budd, then knocked out Amber Leibrock, and then knocked out Olena Kolinzik. I'm saying that wrong. Kolesnik? Whatever.
Yes, Kolesnik, yep.
Marina Monknakina is the 35-year-old out of St. Petersburg, Russia, 11-3 as a pro with 7 finishes, and she has made it to the final. Omar, go first.
Well, I can tell you what I'm not doing is picking against Larissa Pacheco. Larissa Pacheco in the last couple of years, I think for me has been a real underdog kind of story. When you fight people like Kayla Harrison's of the world and stuff like that, and you don't really have a name attached to yourself, a lot of people tend to write you off without any real reason other than the fact that, you don't have anything proven yet for us to think that you can beat somebody like a Kayla Harrison. And she told everybody to go fuck themselves, and she did it anyway. And now she's got the type of momentum where we really have to start looking at her as a real power puncher, as a bruiser of sorts. She's got really, really nasty hands. She has good footwork. She has good hand speed. And I think she's definitely a handful for a lot of women in that division and in that promotion. So I'm gonna go with Larissa Pacheco here. I think she gets it done in the first round. So I'm gonna go first round KO.
I'll go next. Yeah, I mean, I'm on the same boat as you here. I'm not prepared to go in any other direction other than Larissa Pacheco. At this point, she's proven that she's too hard of a hitter to just consider going against her right now. I know that Marina Monknakina is a submission threat for sure with those 6 submission victories and only 11 wins. So more than half of her wins have been by submission. She has quite a few knee bars and arm bars on her record here. And a bit of a diversity of different submission wins. That being said, I'm not going against Pacheco right now. She's the defending champ. I think it's her second $1 million check in a row. I'll take Pacheco. I'll say she finishes Monknakina with strikes. I'll say in the second round. Mark, tell us why you're taking the underdog here.
So Marina is the underdog. She is plus 550. Larissa Pacheco is minus 800 as the favorite.
Holy shit.
The height is the same, 3 inches of reach for Pacheco. Pacheco is trying to add now the featherweight championship to her resume to go with her lightweight championship that she won last year by beating Kayla Harrison. So that would be cool for her if she can get this done. And of all the fights on the card, this is the one that requires the least thought. I don't want to dismiss Marina. She is good. She has won 7 of 8, with the only loss being to Kayla Harrison. She's finished 3 of her last 4. So her somehow finding a sub would not be out of the realm of possibility because she is very slick. But Pacheco is a runaway train right now. She's a bulldozer. She's an unstoppable force. I think you need more than what Marina brings to stop the role that Pacheco is on at the moment. So it may last a little longer than her last couple fights, which were like 30 seconds each. But I still think that before that first horn sounds, we see Marina fall. Larissa Pacheco, first round knockout.
Okay, we move on to the heavyweights. Renan Ferreira taking on Denis Goltsov. Goltsov, excuse me. Thank you. Excuse me. Renan Ferreira, the Problema, the 33-year-old out of Brazil. He is 11-3 with 3 no contests, 10 finishes, 9 of them knockouts, and he has made it to the final. He'll be facing off against the Russian Goltsov. Did I say that right again or wrong again?
Goltsov,
thank you. 33 years old out of Russia. His record stands at 32-7 with 26 finishes. 15 of those are knockouts, and he is in the final. Mark, go first this time. Give us those odds, and then your take and your pick.
So they're fairly wide. I didn't think they were going to be quite this wide. Goltsov is minus 255 as the favorite. Ferreira is plus 205. The size is on Ferreira's side. He is 3 inches taller, and he has a 7-inch reach advantage, which is pretty significant in a heavyweight fight. And he is an absolutely frightening striker, as he showed again in his last fight with Maurice Green. But the key to me in this fight is that he is fighting someone who can take him down. And the last time we saw that was when he fought Ante Delia, and it went very bad for Ferreira very quickly. So has he shored that up? Can he stop Goltsov from taking him down? Can he maybe finish Goltsov before he even gets the chance? It's very possible, but I'm not going to pick it. And really, it's because of the jab of Denis Goltsov. He has a really, really good jab. And I think he can rely on that to keep Ferreira at bay until he is ready to close that distance and feels like he sees an opening for a takedown. So I think that keeps him safe enough. And when he does find the takedown, I think it's ground and pound city. The question for me is just if it ends with a TKO or a sub, but I'm going to say round 1 TKO for Denis Goltsov.
Omar, go.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat, to be honest. I think that he has Goltsov, has kind of the ability to do a little bit of whatever he really wants here, if we're being completely honest. I think he's a very, very good fighter, very solid base. I think this ends up being a finish of strikes. It's probably something like a not like a club and sub, but obviously just good old fashioned knock him down. Yeah, just a good old fashioned club and club. But I do think Goltsov ends up finishing him on the ground. I do think it ends up being pretty bad TKO. But I do give him TKO round 1.
I was just going to say a club and club, otherwise known as a TKO. So you said who by TKO?
Goltsov.
Goltsov. Guys, this is a field pick. I'm going to go with Ferreira. I have liked what I've seen from him quite a bit. He's a gigantic, scary heavyweight, and I'm going with him. I'm going to say he hands Goltsov a knockout loss, winning the title and the money. I'll say round 1. Let's go. I mean, all of his finishes have been round 1, so
we're all on round 1 in that fight.
If it gets out of round 1, it's probably going to be Goltsov, but I'm going to say Ferreira gets it done in the first, finds the chin, hurts him, swarms him. He's 6'8". My God.
He's a monster, dude. He's a monster.
Yeah, he is.
What do you do up there? I don't even understand.
Okay, last one, boys. Here we go. We have made it to the finish line. The final, the main event of PFL 10, once again going down at the Anthem in Washington, D.C. The final lightweight clash between Clay Collard and Olivier Aubin-Mercier, OAM, the Canadian gangster, for all the money and for the belt. Clay Collard, Cassius, the 30-year-old out of Utah, USA, 24-10 with 1 no contest. 14 finishes, 11 of those are knockouts, and he is in the final. OAM is the 34-year-old out of Quebec, Canada, His record stands at 20-5 with 12 finishes. 8 of them are submissions. And he is in the final after winning last year. He won last year in impressive fashion, knocking out Stevie Ray in November, winning the money and the belt, and he is back in the final. OAM has done well for himself under the PFL banner after departing from the UFC. Here we go. Omar, go first. After he goes, he's just going to clock. Omar's just going to sign out. He's just going to leave.
No, I've been a big fan of OAM for a minute now. And I think he's found a new kind of resurgence to the success of his career. I think he's obviously got way more success now in the PFL than he probably was ever going to have in the UFC at this point. But he's had such great performances recently. He's really seemed to find some power behind his shots in most recent performances. And I think he's still going to have that here, man. As solid as Clay Collard is, he is not invincible. That dude gets hit, and he gets hit hard. You know, he's got a good chin, almost Gaethje like, but he gets tagged quite a bit. And with the power that OAM seems to have nowadays, getting hit clean on the chin by one of his strikes just doesn't seem like the way to go. And if OAM is nothing else, he is defensively sound. So I'm not as concerned as for him as I am for Clay Collard in that sense. So I'm going to go with the OAM here. I think he does get the finish. It probably takes a little while because Clay Collard is a motherfucker. But I'm going to go third round, TKO, OAM.
Yeah, I'll go next. Both of these guys are former UFC veterans. OAM, it's important to note who he lost to. He departed from the UFC after 3 consecutive unanimous decision losses. And they were first Alexandr Hernandez, which I know Hernandez has since 2018 been a little bit up and down. But, you know, back in 2018, Alexandr Hernandez was a bit of a prospect at lightweight. And then he lost to a guy named Gilbert Burns. And then he lost to a guy named Arman Sarukian. So nothing to scoff at there for OAM here. He also has a loss to Diego Ferreira back in 2016. So again, it's not like he's lost to no names here in the UFC. Unfortunately, he hit a bit of a skid and he's out. But now he has been undefeated thus far in the PFL. He won both of his fights in 2021. They were both decisions, so it didn't get him far enough into that season with points. Then he won in 2022, and now he's back in the final in 2023. That alone is why I'm just going to keep rolling with OAM, man. I think he has hit another level. He's found another gear, and he's showing everybody why he is very, very good at 155 pounds. In fact, I would love if he was still in the UFC and fighting those guys. Nothing, no offense to Clay Collard, but I think OAM is just on another level. I'll take him this time by a UD over Clay Collard. He walks away with another pocket full of cash. Mark?
So as you would expect, OAM is the favorite. He's minus 265. Clay Collard is plus 205 as the dog. 2 inches of height and 2.5 inches of reach for Clay Collard here. And I think this is a great final because OAM, I agree with you. He has shown that he is a level above the rest in PFL at 155. And he has shown that he is a level above Clay Collard. But if there is anyone who can pressure OAM enough to knock him off his game, it's Clay Collard. The man is a walking wood chipper. And it's only with his hands, which is wild because it still feels like he is coming at you from all angles. He just doesn't stop. He rips the body, and he's going to find ways to test you. And OAM, as we know, he kind of prefers to fight a controlled fight where he can rely on his technique and his range management and up the pace when he wants to and close the distance when he wants to. And you know Clay Collard is going to come in planning to do anything he can to make sure OAM is not allowed that luxury. So for that reason, I do think it's an interesting matchup. I do think Clay Collard is live. But even with all that being said, I do think OAM is that good, and I think he has too many choices here. He can reset range by working his kicks and keep space that way. And most importantly, I think he can duck inside and take this thing down. And I think that when he does, he has a pretty big advantage on the mat. Despite having a nice chunk of subs in the UFC, he doesn't have any in the PFL yet. And I'm going to say that changes here. So I will go OAM round 3 submission. If it does make it to the 5th, though, don't be surprised to see like a clay collared onslaught happening. But I'm going to roll with OAM.
We've done it. Here we go. Mark, where were you and I different?
Let's see. We're all on Jenkins. We're all on Pinedo. I am on Brunson. You're both on Cooper. That's a risk.
There you go.
We're all on Harrison. I am on Silveira. You guys are on Kasanganai. We're all on Magomed Karimov. We're all on Pacheco. You are on Ferreira. Me and Omar are both on Goltsov. And we're all on OAM. So 3 differences.
Let's
for you
go.
and I. Oof. Yeah, these are some risky ones.
Okay.
Shall
A
see.
little bit of trivia.
Oh, nice. I didn't think we were getting trivia. Omar's fucking pissed.
This is interesting. It's not my usual records trivia based on stats and records. This question was inspired by my father, who's currently visiting with me. I was telling him about this past weekend and some of the people who I got to meet. And he asked me just out of nowhere, because out of his own curiosity, he said, "Who did Frank Mir win the title from?" I said, "Well, he's 2-time heavyweight champion." He's like, "Yeah, who did he win it from?" And I was like, "Oh." So my question to you is, I believe he is. One time he won the vacant belt, and the other time it was for an interim belt.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So he's only one. Okay.
I guess that kind of counts as one. But the 2 times he won a fight and had a gold wrapped around his waist.
Yes. Okay.
Who were those 2 wins? And then who were the 2 times that he lost the belt?
The times he lost the belt?
After those wins.
Well, one loss was obviously Brock.
There you go.
The interim win was Nogueira. Wasn't it?
That is correct.
Okay.
Who was the first time where he won it vacant?
Yeah, this is where I'm struggling. And I shouldn't be. I should fucking know this immediately because I love Frank Mir. Why is this not coming into my brain?
Probably just tired as I am.
I messed up. He did not lose it twice. After he won it,
he got hurt.
He got hurt.
This is the diverticulitis thing.
Oh, Tim Sylvia.
Very good. The arm break.
Yeah. Won it from Tim Sylvia, then got hurt.
Oh,
no, he didn't have diverticulitis. Brock had diverticulitis. Frank had the motorcycle accident.
Right.
Won the interim from Nog, lost it to Brock. Bang.
There you go.
You ain't stumping me on Frank Mir trivia.
Tim Sylvia pissed that they stopped that fight.
Yes, he was. He's like, my arm is only broken.
The arm is only broken. Let me bang, bro. That's a different reference,
crazy.
but you get it. Okay, boys, enjoy this PFL action this weekend, the final. As I cough out my lung. Hell of a way to end the show. Mark, say words. Somebody take over.
That's it. Love yous. Enjoy the PFL. It's a pay-per-view, so that sucks, but maybe buy it. Maybe don't. I don't know. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Buy it. Happy Thanksgiving. Hey, happy Thanksgiving, guys.
Red Bull next time.
Peace.
Peace.